In a quiet meadow beneath a swaying dandelion, Jack the ant peeked out from his burrow. He wasn't like the other ants who were content with crumbs and twigs. Jack wanted something more. Today, he set his sights on the tallest tree in the meadow, a towering oak that kissed the sky. The oak tree loomed in the distance, its leaves rustling like waves in the wind. Jack had never been that far from home, but his heart pounded with excitement. I may be small, he whispered, but I can climb big. Jack packed a tiny leaf satchel with crumbs, a drop of dew in a nutshell cup, and a thread of spider silk for rope. He took one last look at his anthill, waved goodbye, and marched off toward the great oak. Along the way, Jack crossed a wide patch of clover. The leaves were like jungles to him, towering overhead. He used his thread of silk to swing across muddy puddles and avoided lazy ladybugs sunbathing on stems. By midday, Jack reached a burbling stream, wider than any path he'd ever seen. He studied the ripples, then crafted a tiny raft from a curled-up leaf. Clutching his satchel, he paddled with a twig, navigating like a true adventurer. The current was strong, but Jack held on. Water splashed over the edges, but he sang a brave tune to keep himself steady. Finally, he reached the far bank and tumbled onto dry grass, laughing. Jack dried off under a mushroom cap, munching a crumb from his satchel. As he rested, he gazed up at the oak, now closer and even taller than before. Its bark looked like mountains stacked on mountains. He resumed his journey, climbing over twigs, ducking beneath spiderwebs, and squeezing through tunnels in tree roots. A soft breeze carried the scent of moss and sunlight. Jack felt like he was entering a new world. At last, he reached the base of the mighty oak. Its trunk stretched up forever, leaves whispering secrets high above. Jack placed one tiny foot on the bark and began to climb, gripping ridges and moss-like handholds. Higher and higher Jack climbed. He passed snails sleeping in grooves, watched caterpillars curl into cocoons, and listened to the wind tell stories through the leaves. As he reached a knot in the tree, a gust of wind nearly knocked him off. Jack clung tight, his legs shaking. I came this far, he said to himself, and I am not giving up now. Night began to fall, and stars blinked awake in the sky. Jack found a cozy nook in the bark and tucked himself in, watching the stars twinkle between the leaves like fireflies. In the morning, golden light painted the tree in honey hues. Jack stretched, ate a crumb, and resumed his climb. His tiny feet moved with purpose. He was almost halfway there. Suddenly, a distant rumble echoed. Rain was coming. Jack had to find shelter fast. He spotted a hollow in the bark and dove in just as fat raindrops began to fall. Thunder rolled and the tree swayed, but Jack stayed safe and dry. He watched the rain streak the bark, turning it darker, richer, full of life. He felt proud. He belonged to this wild world. When the storm passed, Jack emerged from the hollow, blinking in the wet sunlight. He drank from a raindrop and resumed climbing, stronger than before. By evening, he reached the highest branch he could climb. Below him, the meadow stretched like a green quilt. Jack gasped. It was more beautiful than he ever imagined. The wind up high was cool and gentle. Jack sat on a curled leaf and looked out over the world. He saw his anthill, the stream, the clover patch, all the places he'd crossed. He had come so far. He whispered to himself, I may be small, but my dreams are tall. And in that moment, Jack felt rich, not with gold or gems, but with courage, adventure, and wonder. As stars filled the sky again, Jack curled up on the leaf, his satchel beside him. He felt light and happy, like he was floating. He didn't need anything more. He had found his treasure at the top. The next morning, Jack began his careful descent. He took his time, savoring every step, every view. He was no longer just Jack the ant. He was Jack the climber, the dreamer, the brave. When he reached the bottom, the world felt familiar but new. Jack stood tall on 6 legs, his heart full of stories. Back at the anthill, the other ants gathered around, eyes wide. Jack told them of leaves as big as clouds, raindrops like lakes, and stars that whispered secrets to those who dared to climb. From that day on, Jack's story echoed through the meadow, and though he was still just one small ant, everyone saw him a little differently. Because once, Jack had climbed a tree taller than dreams.